The secret they kept was the dark secret of child sexual abuse. It was a foster care group home that was licensed by the state of Washington. And because it was on an island, almost no one from DSHS ever came to check on the welfare of the kids who were placed there. The kids were at the mercy of a closed environment where they didn't even have the option really of running away in the event that they were sexually abused.
The home operated with approximately 20 to 30 boys at a time who would come and live on this island and would be totally cut off from the outside world. For most of its years of operation, the boys who were placed there didn't even have access to a phone to try and call anyone on the mainland. It was the goal of it was to isolate these boys in a setting where they could be contained and controlled. That was the purpose of this home.
And what we've seen throughout that timeline are hundreds of incident reports of physical abuse, of neglect, and sexual abuse of children, and history where administrators of the program were aware of the safety risks, openly discussed the risks among themselves, but did nothing to change the program for decades.
What we found there during the course of our investigation was that DSHS caseworkers around the state were sending some of their most sexually abused and sexually abusive foster care kids to the island, mixing them with some of the most vulnerable populations of foster care kids. And of course, when you have lousy supervision there, what's going to happen? Kids are going to be sexually abused en masse. And really, it's a tragedy for both the kids who needed guidance, supervision, and structure in their lives not to perpetrate, and for kids, of course, who were vulnerable and would be perpetrated against. Everybody suffered there because the supervision, the structure, the organization was horrible, and DSHS, of course, failed in their job to make sure that they were protecting the kids.
And all of this went on for decades. And the only monitoring that really occurred was when the state was trying to do its monitoring function and would send people out to the island, but they would always warn Secret Harbor when they were coming. They would always know because it was an island, and the only way to get there was by boat that Secret Harbor owned. So if the state wanted to investigate the home, they had to tell Secret Harbor, I need to be on your boat at 9 a.m. on this day so I can come investigate you. And so then Secret Harbor, we learned from multiple of our client residents that, anytime a state inspector would come, everyone would be told, clean everything up, hide, how bad this place is normally. Everyone better be on their best behavior in front of the state. The Secret Harbor staff would monitor visits between state representatives and Secret Harbor residents. They would not be allowed to speak to them privately.
We've done some stories on Secret Harbor over the last year, and a number of people have come forward to help us fill out the picture of what happens. When we have one person, sometimes it's hard to tell exactly what happens. When we have a half dozen, the story begins to fill out. When we have 30 people who've come forward, of course, then it gets really easy to see the patterns of staff people who are, for example, alcoholic abusers and physical abuse and sexual abuse.
We're frequently asked in cases like these why people come forward years later. Why didn't they make a police report decades ago when the assault happened? Or why didn't they bring a lawsuit decades ago after they left a group home? Well, a lot of the time, victims feel fear in not being believed. They feel that if they come forward and if they complain, that they'll be doubted, that they'll be attacked, and they'll be isolated. We're optimistic in having so many victims come forward at this point, sharing what they lived through at Secret Harbor, that other victims who are out there who haven't shared their story will feel that support and be comforted in sharing their truth.
It's just fundamentally unjust for those responsible for horrific child sexual abuse to get away with it. It's just wrong. And it's just wrong for the victims. to not get any closure on what happened to them. It's wrong for the organizations and entities that allowed this to occur to, face no consequences for that, because it encourages further instances of abuse. And in this particular instance, the other big reason why it's so important for Secret Harbor victims to come forward is because Secret Harbor still operates, and the state still places children with Secret Harbor. Now, the island program is gone, but Secret Harbor operates multiple other homes now on the mainland. And the fact that there are entities that are still placed in charge of vulnerable children who have allowed so much suffering is outrageous. It is crazy that we have often the same folks, some of the same people who ran the island program are operating Secret Harbor today. And they're still being placed in charge of children, even though we know full well that these people should never be allowed to be in charge of children after what they allowed to occur in their island program. And so every time a Secret Harbor victim comes forward and shares their story, it helps to make sure that this doesn't occur again.